Hey, what's up? This is Mark Lopes from Metal Church of Ross the Boss Band. Let us pray. And you're listening to Aftershocks TV. And don't forget to keep it fucking metal. Yeah.
Now this is something we hear this a lot. I don't think this is anything that we haven't heard before, but I think it is something interesting thing to talk about a little bit here. German metal vet Sodom, frontman Tom Angelripper. And he says today's metal is getting out of control, and the only real representatives of metal that are doing it the real way are bands from the 80s. Okay. Now, obviously, Sodom's from the 80s, so just a little biased there, I'd say, right? Just a little bit. But that aside, I mean, so what do you think? Are the 80s metal musicians, are they the only quote-unquote real ones doing it today in metal? What's your take, Chris?
No, they're not. That's a ridiculous take. That is an old guy sounding like, get off my lawn. That's really what that is. He sounds like an idiot. But it still fascinates me, though, the number of people from that era that look at anything past it as not metal. I agree. That kills me. Kills me too. When I hear people say Slipknot is not metal, I'm ready to punch somebody in the fucking head. It's like, come on. It's heavy, it's guitar driven, it's got booming drums, it's metal. It's a different kind of metal, but it's metal. And these guys, because they don't get it, they think it's not being done right. And they're just wrong. It outgrew them. And that's really, I laugh when I hear, and it's always the old guys. You don't hear a 30-year-old guy going, you know what? There hasn't been any good metal since Metallica broke. Yeah, you don't see any 40 or 50-year-old guys. You're right. It's these guys, like late 50s, early 60s and above that are saying it. Yeah, I agree. It's these guys that are getting pushed to 2 o'clock on the fucking festival now because their music is old and tired. Yeah. And I love Sodom. I love Destruction and, Creator and all those bands from that era, from that part of the world. They're all great bands for their time. But time moves on. These guys, and I know what it is. These guys like Angelripper, they look at a band like Iron Maiden and they think that, or Metallica, and they think that the world still wants that. And it's categorically untrue. It's true. Yeah, right. The world still wants that specific band. Yeah. Or they still want Metallica's specific thing. But there's 100 bands, I'll throw Heathen, probably the closest band to sounding like Metallica that I can think of off the top of my head. Sure. And there ain't 100 people across this country that want to see a Heathen fucking show at anywhere but a club. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And that's what Angelripper here is missing the boat on, is he thinks, well, because I look up and every time I go to social media, I see Iron Maiden playing in front of 50,000, 60,000 people. Well, no shit. All your friends are 60 years old. You're fucking 60 years old. And anybody that you follow doesn't listen to Slipknot or Vended or Killswitch Engage. Yeah. So, of course, you think that's bad music because you don't get it. Yeah, I mean, he did say, obviously, he said, it's getting out of control. Listen, we can all agree that we talked about it, one of the last segments about all these metal clone bands, right? That's getting out of control. And he mentioned about how everything's sounding, like metalcore and stuff. Listen, you ain't going to have an argument with me there in terms of maybe a lot of new bands, but sounding like that, I get it. But it's also, like you said, it's the sound of it's their era. What does he think his band sounds like when you compare every other band that came out in 1985? Exactly. Well, I think that's it is. It's. Look, I get. We all know this. Yes, the business itself is out of control with that. I mean, we talked about that, but the 80s artists. I mean, I agree. It's completely BS. And like you say, I think it just stems from the 90s because their careers got so upended in the 90s. And they didn't like grunge and they didn't like alternative and everything. They didn't like the style changing. And yes, it wasn't all about leads and guitar driven stuff. There was more, there were more elements that were being included in the music that people wanted to hear. I think they're just always going to be so bitter about anything, like you said, past their era,
That's why, I mean, we know people, that
Of
won't listen
course.
to anything past 1989.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because of that. And I think it's just because of that. And it became less. Also, when they say metal, I mean, we just talked about the GZR album, Plastic Planet. And I think it's heavy as fuck. It's metal.
Yes.
Yes, it might not be super fast thrash stuff. There's a couple of fast songs on it, but it's more mid-tempo.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that this isn't quote unquote metal. And I think that's what I mean. Even listen, we can even talk about bands. Okay, let's talk about some bands that are in the vein of the 80s. Well, we've interviewed and had some of them. Chemicide, Chrysix, I mean, Havoc, Warbringer. We can go. I mean, there's plenty
of them.
Plenty of them. So agree, man. I mean, we all agree. Look, 80s. Okay, you could say yes. It was the golden age of metal. We all can understand that.
Yeah, we get that, but
because that's when it was created. But we're obviously also in a period in the music business where, like I said, there's no labels that are going around and signing the Sodoms when they're in their 20s and developing them and putting out records.
Right.
They don't have that option.
No, they do it themselves if they do it at all.
Yeah.
There's that. The other piece to it too, and this is the part that drives me crazy when it's specifically guys like Angelripper from Sodom or or the guy from Destruction. He tends to run his mouth a little bit too. These guys, the one thing they'll bitch about in the 90s is how it all became fashion and it wasn't about the music. You've heard that a zillion times, right?
All the time.
What era of music was more clown fashion than the 80s?
I know.
Extreme metal with the patch jackets and
the tight ass jeans
and the jeans. I mean,
and the fucking the Reebok white Reeboks. Exactly. We used to call it the metalhead specials, man.
And who did all these guys want to be? The biggest clowns of all, Kiss.
I know.
They all wanted to be Kiss.
It's true.
So they hate on Slipknot, but they worship Kiss.
I know.
How does that make sense?
It's the same thing.
It's dumb.
Thing. I know. Yeah, I know. I get sick of it, man. We get sick of these guys. Just everything's about the 80s.
Yeah.
Look, I think we all could agree. Look, I would probably say 80s was the golden era for rock and metal, of course, because it was also part of the culture. You understand these kids. It's not part of their culture. Well, listen, we had MTV. We were surrounded day and night with rock and metal. It was everywhere. These kids aren't.
No.
I mean, like I said, I fucking went to Vegas years ago, and there's not even cover bands anymore. There's DJs. So this is, my daughter. All right, I got all these fucking instruments around. She's had piano lessons, all this shit. And I heard her today. She's talking about something about so and so with the DJ thing. I'm like, oh fuck you. I mean, and trust me, that's fucking killing me. I mean, that's something I've been trying to get out of, and not have her do. And yet, because it's the thing of the generation,
it's their generation.
They're drawn to it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, no, and look, the positive is at least she's into music, because that'll keep her brain creative, and that'll make her a better person.
Maybe she'll grow into music, and whatever. But
music, but these 80s guys and 70s guys too, grow up, grow with it.
Exactly.
I mean. There was a time when your favorite music was the new stuff that everybody before you was looking at as crap. There was a time that people looked at Metallica. I remember that time more than anything. I remember when I first got Ride the Lightning, which was the first one that I got from Metallica, and I brought it home. All my friends were looking at me like I was a fucking idiot, because they were like, this doesn't sound like Motley Crue. This is way too heavy. And then when I went to Slayer or something, they were like, oh my, what is this? This devil music. I can remember, the first two Extreme records I brought home, not the band Extreme, but Extreme metal records, were Butchered at Birth, Cannibal Corpse, and Arise from Sepultura. And I can remember even my wife at the time, she looked at me like I had brought the devil into the house.
Sure. It was crazy stuff, that stuff, when you first heard it. It really was.
It was. But that was what the appeal was to me, was that it was so crazy and so radical and so different. And somewhere along the way, you didn't become a metalhead unless you craved something that was wild and different and would shake your friends or your mom or somebody. That was part of the appeal of metal.
The shock of it, yeah.
The shock of it.
Yeah.
all the way back to when people first started gravitating to Kiss. People gravitated to Kiss, and their moms and dads were like,
hated it, of course.
holy cow, Knights in Satan's service. It's scary, you know, and everybody was on board for a while. But as they've aged on, then all of a sudden they get complacent. And the next generation comes up, and they still want wildness. They want Sam Smith and doing a satanic ritual on the Grammys.
Well, I was going to
whatever.
say, you realize where everything you look, even pop stars
Yeah.
are wearing metal style stuff that years ago you wore, you'd think, oh, that person's a metalhead. No, and these people aren't, because you got Satan's in basically mainstream now. Satan's mainstream. It's not counterculture.
Dude, why do you think rap rose so fast and so big? Because it was the dangerous stuff. When we started having all of the, you know, in one breath we had, for the last 10 years, we had cancel culture. You can't say anything without doing this, without pissing somebody off or even losing your goddamn job. But then look at the music. The music's about fucking bitches, wet ass pussy. You know, I mean, everything is like extreme. And that's what led people to hard rock and metal stopped being extreme. It started being safe, and nobody listens to it.
That's why no one listens to it. Exactly.
And rap is still,
it's the dangerous one. Yeah.
It's still dangerous, and people now are gravitating toward it. And it blows my mind that these people that grew up as metalheads all of a sudden now are like, well, there hasn't been anything good since 1987. Well, that's clear that you stopped trying to find it at 1987.
Exactly.
Because there's tons of it. Tons.
Well, and again, it's like, listen, you can't blame the kids, man.
No.
All right. I saw this, you know, like I said, you know, like 20 years ago with the whole, you know, Rockstar thing with the computers, you know, I mean, with the video games, when people were sitting there and wanting to do that instead of actually playing a real instrument.
Yeah.
And I knew that spelled doom. But once again, like you said, the business is shit. It's in shambles. There is no listen. You think Eddie Van Halen would have sat there and played as much as he did and honed his craft if he didn't realize he was trying to turn it into a career? You know, I saw this in the interview last week that Alex Van Halen did, and it was good. I mean, I never heard him talk before, and so to actually see that, like, him talking, he seemed like a pretty cool dude, and like he was saying, I mean. To them, it wasn't music. Wasn't like just this fun thing. Their dad was a musician, so they equated the music to eating food,
right?
Like to them, that was survival,
right?
So with Eddie Van Halen, like I said, he didn't equate it to like, oh, I just want to be this rock star. It's like, no, he knew he could make a living doing that. These kids, they don't know that they. When you wanted to be a rock star, you knew it meant fame and fortune. Now there is no rock star. There's no fame and fortune in it. So why are you going to hone your craft instead of going out? Eddie Van Halen, instead of going out and hanging out with his friends in high school and partying, no, he would sit home with a six-pack and play his guitar and party.
Right.
That was what he did, and to become what he became. So because you saw that there was a career in music.
Yeah.
There is no career for these kids in music. So why the fuck are they all going to get in a room again and sit there and play in the band? They're not going to do it.
They're going to do just like your kids doing. They're going to get a turntable, and they're going to try and create a beat that no one's heard before.
Exactly.
And they're going to find a friend that can throw down, a direct.
Then go on YouTube, start a YouTube page. And we've seen it with all the YouTube stars, the Nick Nocturnals. Yeah. This guy can shred. He don't want to be. He's like, what do I want to be in a band for?
Yeah.
I can make money sitting here. I can get chicks doing it this way too. And I don't need to be a rock star to have fame and fortune and have attention.
And the ones that do join bands, they end up taking pay cuts. That girl from what's her name? Smashing Pumpkins girl.
Oh, Darcy?
No, the new one. The new one.
Oh, the new one. Oh, yeah.
Barbie Wong or whatever her name is. She was a huge YouTube person. Huge. And now she's in Smashing Pumpkins. People knew about her on YouTube. A lot less people talking about her in Smashing Pumpkins.
Exactly.
Smashing Pumpkins is a big band still. They're still a big band.
Oh, yeah, of course they are.
But for her, it's a profile shift backwards.
Yeah.
Because the time has changed. The time is definitely different. And, but it always kills me, these guys that are like, well, there's no good music. Well, if you truly believe there's no good music, then you just ain't trying.
You ain't trying.
Because I could find 20 great bands on Bandcamp in 5 minutes.
What they're saying is there's no new music being thrown at me. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's spoon feeding me it.
Yeah, no one spoon feed them. Well, yeah, no shit, dude. It's not. You got to go look for it now. There's tons of it, but you just got to look for it. It's just a different thing. It's just getting old hearing these guys. I mean, we're old guys, but
I know,
we're all about new music. We're all about supporting new bands. These fucking
How many
guys,
of these bands that were popular in the 80s? And be honest here. I mean, if I'm wrong on this, tell me. How many of them would have been popular if they weren't spoon-fed to people?
Oh, exactly. Oh, absolutely, dude. I mean, Poison? You think Poison?
Yeah.
A band like that, if someone would have just heard it, but they would have been like, oh, wow, dude, I just heard this fucking killer tune. They had this great guitarist and a great vocalist. No.
Motley Crue, for God's sake.
You know, Motley Crue, exactly. I totally agree.
You know, all of those bands, I mean, there were bands that had significant talent. You know, a Mr. Big type of a band or whatever. You know, Testament had way more talent than any of the other thrash bands. Or Death Angel. Those guys are extremely talented musicians. Would any of them have made it just on their talent? Just on their talent?
No way.
It needed a vehicle, MTV,
visual to go with
push it over.
Push it over the top, exactly.
And I mean, look, do you really think any of us would have... I'm going to point to an extremely talented band, Winger. Do you think anybody would have adopted Winger?
Never.
Had they not been on MTV?
Never.
It was spoon-fed.
Kip Winger was a good-looking guy, and and had the look, and
they did the Can't Get Enough video with him prancing around hot naked chicks.
Exactly,
and that made us all want to be him.
Be in that. I mean, I remember watching the Way Cool Jr. video and being like, with Rat and being like, man, I need to get to fucking LA once I can, dude, because of that. And it was more than just the music. It was all those things attached to it. Exactly.
Yeah. And now there's none of that. Now
there's none of it.
Everybody gets it from YouTube, from somebody's bad camera phone at a fucking show. So you're watching, I heard this Slipknot song. I kind of like it. Let me see what the rest of this band is like.
Shitty audio.
You go to YouTube, it sounds like...
Exactly.
And it's like this, the camera going all over the place, you know, and you hear the other guy singing that's filming instead of Corey Taylor singing. And that's what these kids have to judge as far as good or not, or some shit lyric video, or, you know, every once in a while you get a real video but you don't get a real video from a band that hasn't made it. You get something that they shot with 2 iPhones from their girlfriends.
Exactly.
And it's shit.
That's it. And that's what you're going to consider being fed shit. Exactly. Yeah.
We were spoon-fed $1 million videos. Now they're spoon-fed some shit that comes off of a $30 a month iPhone.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, it's like, come on. Of course it's not as good. It's not as good to see, but that doesn't mean that the music's not as good. It just means that you got to dig deeper if you really want to discover something great. And there's plenty of it to discover.
Listen, because of the convenience and the ease for people to record music now, and they don't have to go spend thousands of dollars to go to a studio and record it. Listen, I was, had this discussion with a friend the other day about, like I said, you cannot make great records in your bedroom. And I still stand by that. Sure. You can't. You still need, and that's why, listen, don't get me wrong, we're not really hearing, of course, like, I think we talked about this a year or so ago, and you said, like, can you name one, like, album, like an opus sort of album that's come out in the last 15 years? I'm like, no. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons, because people are it's not where, I mean, there's all reasons, but the bottom line is the industry it's not the same. So we're, unfortunately, because like anything, if you don't invest in something, the return you get out of it's going to be less. Yeah. And so because there's not all this money being thrown, and bands can sit there and take a year to put together an album bit by bit and go over things and blah, blah, blah. Now it's like you got to get it out now, or you got to get that single out and stuff just to keep people interested to hear your band, because they'll forget about you fast. Because of that, of course, the quality is not going to be the same.
It's not because it's cheap. I mean, the obvious free thing is this. Name somebody that you would spend money to go see.
Like a bigger band?
Any band. Burton Bell. You would spend money to go see
Burton
of course.
Bell, right? Absolutely. See him solo, absolutely.
Let's just say a Burton, and I know this is a crazy comparison, but roll with me on this.
Sure.
Let's say that Burton Bell is going to do his new stuff and promises to do 20 Fear Factory songs in a show, but it's $150. you'll spend the $150.
You know, for him, I probably would.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Fair. So you'll spend the $150. You'll go no matter what.
Yes.
No matter what, because you spent that $150, you'll go. Now I'm going to hand you a free ticket to Burton Bell. Now I'm taking you. You didn't spend the $150. You got a free ticket in your hand. Are you 100% going? 100%.
Probably, but not 100. Probably 95%.
That's what I mean.
Exactly.
There's less value in the free.
And you don't absolutely.
If you stay home, nothing's lost. If you stay home on a $150 ticket,
$150.
You lost
exactly.
$150, and you're smarting about it for the next month. That, God damn it, why did I waste all that money on that ticket?
No, it's true. That's
and then when you see the reviews and it's great, then you're even more mad because you're like, oh my God, I got a $150 ticket sitting on the counter,
and I didn't know.
I missed a great show.
Exactly.
You know,
no, it's true. I mean, sure. You usually don't just throw away a ticket unless it's, you know.
But a free one, who cares?
Yeah,
I'm busy. I'm tired.
And that's what it is, and everything's free, and so it's devalued. And I mean, I don't want to get into the doom and gloom here. We got to cut that before it gets too deep and dark as we usually kind of get to. But one of the but Tom Angelripper is completely wrong. I agree.
He is.
It's not just the bands from the 80s. There's plenty from the 90s and above. A ton.
You gonna tell me Rammstein's not doing it right?
Well, tell him, right? German guy, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, they're one of the biggest stage shows ever.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but it is a killer show.
I haven't, but even now Bandian, who's not a fan of that music and stuff.
I'm not a fan.
And he was saying, it was a great show. He said it's
I saw it on Family Values. The only time I saw it was on Family Values.
Okay.
They were an opener.
They were on that? They were on Family Values?
It was like
wow.
Korn, Ice Cube, Rammstein, and maybe Limp Bizkit.
That's true. They came over. That's when they started getting play over here. That time period. That's true.
I think Du Hast was on the radio or something.
Yeah,
but
Du Hast, yeah.
I mean, I can't even name a second song.
No,
and they play stadiums here.
I know.
But I'm telling you, they blew all those other bands in their prime off the stage.
Yeah, that's what
it was ridiculous how good and I didn't know a single song. I mean, they're up there on the stage doing that. I don't know what they're saying, but all of a sudden the singer's out there, and there's another guy behind him hitting him with a flamethrower, and his coat's on fire, but he doesn't stop singing, and it was like nuts. And I was like, this is the greatest show of all time.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that a lot.
They are other level great.
Well, again. But we're talking about a show now, music. I think Angelripper is talking about metal music.
Okay, well,
but same thing. They're a metal band.
Thing?
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is it's a fucking ignorant and stupid statement, and kind of tired of hearing it. But you said it's just an old guy statement, as you said. That's a pretty accurate thing.
I bet he doesn't hand out candy on Halloween either.
Yeah. Probably he's probably just one of those asshole guys. But maybe not. I don't want to say that. But it's just an ignorant statement. But hey, well, we won't get into this. But your buddy David Ellison said you agreed that rock is dead in the U.S. Maybe we could talk about that another time. Not now, but that came in today.
Since you brought up Ellison, this will be a good place to end. Why don't we collectively thank Mr. Ellison for remembering our friend Bob Nalbandian?
Yes, you're right.
In his
Nick Menza interview.
Yes,
that's
true.
true.
And in the press release and everything else, I thought that I actually texted him and thanked him for it.
I thought that was really awesome for him to put him in that.
It was really good, and really good for him to put him in the press release prominently.
Yes, prominently he did
to kind of say, well, Bob was important.
Yep. And he wasn't just saying the fact that he obviously not everybody. He's not a household name, Bob.
No.
But the fact he brought up and explained kind of a little bit who he was, that was huge. And he told him his fallen brother and everything. So yeah, exactly. Thank you, David, for doing that, man.
Made us happy.
Absolutely. Anything that mentions Bob makes us happy. Which and speaking of that,
by the time this airs, it'll be
2 years. Yeah, from his passing, man. It's gone fast. And
dude, and we're not going to end negative. We'll end positive. But you still do this, I'm sure. I do it all the time. See something on the music news or something and grab at your phone and go, oh,
Yeah, you want to text him.
You want to text them or throw them or call even and just say, dude, did you see what so-and-so did or whatever?
Well, I was going to text you the other day. I was sitting here doing some things on my other computer here, just like saving some files.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I was actually saving. I'm basically saving the old Skull sessions.
Sure.
I'm getting them on a what do you call it? A external hard drive. I want to put them on. And I was like, oh, which one's this? The Skull sessions. It was like a big long file, and I just played it. It was the first Skull sessions that me, you, and him ever did video.
Okay.
And we were just talking stories.
Right.
And it's probably the longest I've seen him even talk.
Sure.
He went like a half hour just straight. He's like, oh, sorry, but it was a great story about the whole concert he did with like the Suicidal and all them at the at the Olympic Auditorium in LA. And anyway, we were just talking like those war stories, and you had some funny stories. But if go ahead and take a look at it. It's just once in a while those will come, and I'll pop them on and just put it on the background, and just to hear his voice and hear his stories and stuff. It was really cool here. Like watching that back. It was about 4 years ago. Yeah, when we started the CMSBN and stuff, and using StreamYard and everything. Yeah. Yeah.
I watched just recently. I rewatched the one right when Ellefson got booted out of Megadeth, and me and Bob kind of argued.
That was a great one.
But it's great. It's so, and I mean it's funny because a lot of people did email both of us and we're like, oh, are you guys not friends anymore? Because we did really kind of go at each other.
I don't know if I've ever seen Bob that amped up. I mean,
he was very
amped up, man. He was amped,
But it was such a great. It was two friends that just had a difference of opinion. And it was okay because in the end, we walked away from it and we were still friends. We just didn't agree. And, and he was wrong and tough shit. But
let's end it on that.
Yeah, all right. There we go.
All right. See everyone next time, Aftershocks.
See ya.
I had an interest in music, always.
It's always kind of been around me some way, shape, or form.
5 minutes sitting on a drum set, man, change your life.
This is the same black guitar that Marty McFly plays in Back to the Future.
I love the feeling I get in front of the freaking full stack here, just the vibration or something to it.
I'm lucky because I do have a little bit of a tap into the Fu Manchu lore, into the Nebula lore.
In order to keep things going, you kind of have to start playing the game a little bit, like the business game.
Everybody has to get through a day-to-day, and how do you exist and how do you get by?
As far as getting people to commit to bands, it's tough to keep a lot together these days, for sure.
Still sleeping on people's floor, that's still a reality.
Probably also playing with some of the best people I've ever played with. The creative juices don't stop. It just keeps going.
For me, it's just finding a balance of how much time I'm spending with my family versus how much time I'm spending working.
It's this validation that what you're doing actually has merit.
Obviously, we're a little long in the tooth, and we've been doing this for a minute, and now we can kind of do what we want. We don't need a record company. I'll do it myself. I'll do it the way I want to.
Just always be cool. Just be respectful. Those are your people. They're connecting to you on some level, even if they don't look like you.
It's got to happen, or else I'll go crazy. I'll go crazy one way or another, I might as well, not go crazy if I can play music.
Maybe one day I'll have a Porsche, but until that day, I'll drive a Chevy.
There you go.
All right.